There's something no one ever told you about respect. It's not something you earn when you arrive. It's not something you negotiate through presence, conversation, or performance. The decision is already made. By the time you show up, it's already too late, because real dominance, real presence, isn't physical. It's psychological. It's built long before you appear. It lives in the tension of your name, in the weight your reputation carries, in the energy that enters the room, even when your body doesn't. The brutal truth? Every space you've ever entered, every table, every conversation, every circle, already decided your rank before you stepped in. You felt it. You've walked into rooms where no one adjusted, no one noticed, no one cared, because your presence didn't exist until you tried to force it. And the worst part? None of this is your fault, because no one ever taught you how this works. No one ever told you that respect is a signal, a silent algorithm that calibrates the second your name is mentioned. This is why some men don't fight for attention. They don't negotiate for relevance. They don't perform for space, because the space already belongs to them. Their reputation precedes them. Their presence exists before they do. The atmosphere shifts simply because the room knows he holds weight. Ever wondered why some men's names make the air feel heavier? Why their absence feels louder than most men's presence? This isn't luck. This isn't magic. This isn't status written on paper. It's a frame, an invisible gravity, a psychological tension that follows them everywhere. And here's the mistake most men never realize they're making. They think respect starts when they speak, when they show up, when they try to prove something. But the test was over before the first word. This is why you walk into rooms and nothing happens. No glance, no shift, no recalibration, because your energy didn't arrive before you did. The hierarchy doesn't wait for your presence. It adjusts to the signals you've been broadcasting your entire life. And if those signals are weak, if your presence doesn't exist beyond the physical, you become invisible, optional, negotiable. But when you understand how to install gravity before you arrive, the room calibrates to you. The atmosphere adjusts. People lean in without knowing why. This is how high-status men move through the world. Not chasing, not asking, not performing. They are felt before they're seen. And if something inside you knows that you were never meant to be the man they tolerate, the man they forget, the man who negotiates for space, then stay exactly where you are. Because what you are about to learn will change the way the world treats you forever. Subscribe now. Stay with the few. This isn't advice. This isn't motivation. This is a psychological weapon, a code for men who were never meant to be ignored. You've felt this before. The silence when you enter, the conversations that don't pause, the eyes that don't glance, the energy that stays exactly the same, as if your presence changed nothing. It's not random. It's not personal. It's structural, because the world doesn't wait for you to arrive. It doesn't wait to hear you speak. It doesn't wait to discover who you are. It scans. It measures. It ranks. And the cruel part is, it does it before you even step inside. You walk into spaces thinking the interaction starts at hello. But the truth is, the decision was made long before that. Your name, your posture in life, your pattern of presence or absence, your psychological footprint. That's what determines how the room treats you. And if there's no gravity attached to you before you appear, then you arrive invisible. You speak unheard. You exist, but you don't register. People don't turn their heads. They don't adjust their posture. They don't recalibrate the social frame to accommodate you. Not because they dislike you, not because they're rude, but because your presence wasn't installed in their nervous system before you arrived. The most brutal truth about human hierarchy is this: if your presence is only felt when you're physically there, you don't have presence. You're not a force. You're not gravity. You're just another body in the room. Easily filtered, easily ignored, easily forgotten. This is why you've walked into rooms and felt smaller. Why conversations flowed around you. Why decisions happened without you. Why your words landed flat, like background noise nobody asked for. And it leaves a mark, a quiet sting, a feeling of being tolerated, but never truly included. Present, but irrelevant. Visible, but weightless. You start thinking maybe you need to talk more, be funnier, louder, more interesting. But none of that works. Because the hierarchy isn't built on noise, it's built on gravity. And gravity is either there before you arrive, or it isn't there at all. This is the silent filter that operates underneath every interaction, every meeting, every relationship. It doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't wait for your performance. It calibrates instantly, based on signals you've been transmitting your entire life. And the cost of not understanding this is a lifetime of being the man they overlook, the man they forget, the man they tolerate, but never feel, until you change it. The most dangerous mistake men make is believing that presence starts when they arrive. It's the unconscious assumption that respect begins with physical visibility, with the handshake, the conversation, the smile. But the reality is far more brutal and far more unforgiving. Presence isn't something you switch on when you step into a room. It's a signal that has already been sent, or hasn't. And by the time you show up, the system has already processed you, ranked you, and decided how to treat you. Every time you walk into a space without realizing this, you leak signals that betray your position in the hierarchy. You try to fill the gap with noise, smiling too much, talking too fast, over-explaining, trying to sound interesting, likable, or relevant. What you don't realize is that every one of these behaviors silently screams the same message: I hope you accept me. And the moment the nervous system of the room detects that, the calibration is instant. You're scanned, placed, dismissed. It's not just how you talk, it's how you walk, how you breathe, how you hold space. When you enter with energy that seeks approval, people feel it before a single word is exchanged. Your gaze scans too quickly. Your steps carry urgency instead of weight. Your breathing collapses into your chest instead of expanding into the room. These are not mistakes you consciously make. They are the physical manifestation of a psychological frame that was never installed, and the consequences are devastating. You find yourself in conversations where you are constantly trying to prove your value, to be included, to be heard. You leave meetings wondering why your words didn't stick. You replay interactions in your head, trying to figure out what you said wrong, when in reality, the decision was never about your words. It was about the invisible energy you carried in, or the lack of it. This is why some men move through the world with a kind of silent immunity. They don't explain, they don't rush, they don't perform. Their stillness speaks louder than most people's words. Their absence carries more weight than other men's presence. Because their reputation, their energetic frame, was installed long before the moment required it. This isn't arrogance. This isn't bravado. It's biological dominance coded into the fabric of human interaction. The tragic part is, no one teaches this. No one explains that human beings are biologically wired to detect status, hierarchy, and power within seconds, often before words are exchanged. And if you haven't mastered how to project psychological gravity ahead of your presence, you are playing a game that was already lost before it began. The game isn't played when you enter the room. The game is played in the space before that, in the silence, in the anticipation, in the reputation that walks ahead of your body. You think being friendly compensates. You think being smart fixes it. You think being agreeable will somehow override the primal scan of dominance that happens before anyone listens to your ideas. But it never does. In fact, the more you try to compensate, the more your energy communicates submission, desperation, and fragility. And the hierarchy responds exactly as it was designed to, by dismissing you, quietly, effortlessly, instinctively. This is why you've experienced the pain of invisibility, why you've watched others command the room with less intelligence, less experience, less value, and yet they were treated as kings, while you were treated as background noise. Because the hierarchy isn't logical, it's biological. It's about the frame you carry, the energy you radiate, the gravity you project, or don't. And until you understand this, every room you walk into will continue treating you the same way. Not because they hate you, not because they're cruel, but because the algorithm of human interaction was never designed to wait for you to prove yourself. It was designed to detect presence before presence is even physically there. This is the invisible error that sabotages men every day. The belief that respect is something to be earned in the moment, instead of something that is pre-installed through psychological gravity. And as long as you don't understand how to create that gravity, you remain at the mercy of a game that never gave you a chance. Here's the shift: the invisible code that separates the men who are felt from the men who are ignored. It starts with understanding that presence is never about proximity. It's about psychological gravity, the ability to command space, energy, and attention, whether you are physically there or not. And that gravity is built through a very specific set of behaviors, signals, and patterns that your nervous system transmits into the world, constantly, relentlessly, silently. The first rule is stillness. Not physical stillness alone, but energetic stillness. The kind of calibrated, intentional presence that doesn't chase attention, doesn't seek validation, and doesn't perform for approval. When you cultivate the ability to be still, internally and externally, the nervous systems around you begin to notice. Because stillness, in a world addicted to noise, feels like power. It feels like dominance. It feels like scarcity. The second rule is restraint. Powerful men don't flood the world with access. They don't explain themselves to everyone. They don't show up everywhere. Their time is expensive. Their presence is rare. Their energy feels exclusive, because it actually is. The man who shows up everywhere, who replies instantly, who is available at all times, silently communicates that his energy is cheap, and biology punishes cheapness. It rewards scarcity. The third rule is delayed response. In conversations, in decisions, in interactions, the powerful don't rush to fill silences. They let tension build. They let others experience uncertainty. And in that uncertainty, the hierarchy recalibrates. Every second of pause amplifies the weight of their next word, their next move, their next decision. Because urgency signals desperation, and slowness signals control. But the most critical rule, the one that installs respect even in absence, is your reputation of gravity. You build this not by announcing it, not by demanding it, but by repeatedly demonstrating one thing. You are the man who doesn't need them, the man who operates on his own frame, his own time, his own gravity. This reputation becomes a silent transmission. It moves faster than words. It installs in rooms before your body arrives. It shapes conversations you're not part of. It forces adjustments in people who haven't even seen you yet, but know your name. This is why high-status men move differently, why they don't explain, why they don't over-communicate, why they never look rushed, desperate, or accessible to everyone. Because they understand that their power doesn't come from the performance of presence, but from the energy that lives in the anticipation of their presence. When you start withholding access, when you stop being the man who's always there, when you lean into silence instead of filling it, when you make decisions slowly, deliberately, without explaining, the world starts recalibrating around you. Conversations pause when your name comes up. People adjust their tone, their energy, their posture, not because you forced them to, but because biology left them no choice. And this is not arrogance. It's not game. It's not manipulation. It's the deepest law of dominance coded into human interaction. Every organism on the planet understands it. The lion doesn't chase approval. The eagle doesn't ask for permission. Gravity doesn't apologize for being heavy, and neither should you. When you master this, the psychological installation of presence, you stop being someone who negotiates for space. You become the man who defines the space, the man the world feels, even in his absence. Now tell me, when was the last time someone felt your presence without you being there? Drop it in the comments below. When you install this, everything changes. You notice it first in the subtle things, the way conversations slow when you enter, the way their tone softens when your name comes up, the way people glance, not to check if you're present, but to check if you noticed. They calibrate, they adjust, not because you demanded it, but because their nervous system felt it had no choice. The man who used to fight for space no longer has to. The tension now moves in his direction. People wait before speaking. They choose their words carefully. Their laughter is quieter when you don't join in. Their sentences lose energy when you withdraw your attention. And it's not personal. It's biological. You feel it in how quickly people respond when you delay, how their posture straightens when you hold eye contact without breaking, how their words stretch into nervous explanations just to fill the void that your silence creates. This isn't about being aggressive. It's not about intimidation. It's about the quiet discomfort that your restraint now produces. They ask more questions. They seek more of your time. They check for signs of approval in your face. And the irony? The less you give, the more they chase. Because what's scarce becomes valuable. What's inaccessible becomes magnetic. What's mysterious becomes unforgettable. Your absence starts feeling heavier than your old presence ever did. You skip an event, and it's noticed. You leave a conversation early, and the tone shifts. You don't reply, and the silence is louder than anything you could have said. You've become the variable they adjust to, not because you forced it, but because you stopped offering yourself freely. The man who once negotiated for space now defines it. The man who once hoped to be included now finds others hoping to be included by him. The dynamic is inverted. You no longer fight for relevance. You no longer perform for belonging. Your existence now operates on a different frequency, one that's felt, even when you're not there. And this shift, once felt, is irreversible. Because once the nervous system learns that your presence holds gravity, it never forgets. People start thinking about you differently, talking about you differently, moving differently in your orbit. It's not about fear, it's about tension, respect, psychological gravity. This is how the invisible few move through the world. They don't seek permission. They don't broadcast their worth. They don't chase attention, because their very existence forces the world to recalibrate. And once you've seen this, once you've felt the room bend before you say a word, there is no going back. From this point forward, you walk differently. You speak less. You reveal less. You let silence do what words never could. You let distance become your loudest statement. Every room you enter calibrates. Every space you leave feels heavier in your absence. You no longer seek permission. You no longer perform to be heard. Because now, you understand. It was never about noise. Never about performance. It was always about gravity. About tension. About the energy that exists, even when you don't. This is a psychological weapon, a signal that separates the few from the invisible. The question is, will you use it? Most won't. Most will hear this and return to noise. Back to chasing. Back to being forgettable. But a few, the silent few, will never walk into a room the same way again. Because once you've felt the shift, once you've watched the world recalibrate to your presence, there is no going back. If you've made it this far, it proves you're part of the 1%. Subscribe now, stay with the few, and ask yourself this, not out loud, but quietly, deeply, when they say your name, when they think about you, when you're not in the room, do they feel it, or do they feel nothing?